Hey guys, it's Max Convexity. Hope everyone's having a great day. Hey, I wanted to do a Defiance dividend prediction show. I did one last month and I was way off. A couple of people rubbed it in a little bit in the comments, but and that's fine. But I never promised I was going to be right on. I did my best at making the guess, but yeah, I was off a little bit. Today I want to review the past month and how they've been doing, how the funds have been doing, and how much dividend I think they can pay and they should pay, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe with a few random thoughts, with a few random thoughts mixed in. All right, well, I've got a lot of new subscribers to the channel lately. Just 30 yesterday, and I'm picking up lots of new subscribers every day. So let me take the chance to reintroduce myself in just case anyone's new. My name's Max. And I'm an ex financial planner. I used to work with high net worth people, people that were on the boards and officers in public companies, people with significant assets, and lots. And what I specialized in was covered calls, but that was many years ago, and a lot's changed since then. And I'm learning new stuff all the time. But I do like to talk about options, particularly covered call strategies, and particularly strategies for either tax avoidance or tax planning, let's say, or estate planning, and also typically for people that have a concentrated position. Lots of people that are, let's say, they've received stock options from a company. Not lots of people, but some people. Some of my clients receive stock options, but they had such a low cost basis on those options because they'd worked for the company so long, they couldn't afford the tax bill. They had millions of dollars of stock, and if they would have, they can't sell it because they can't afford to pay the tax bill, but yet they still have plenty of money. Well, I was good at getting a covered call override program together for them. So that's where my experience comes in. I've worked with folks on for years, as a broker and then privately. But as far as ETFs go, and as far as a lot of other stuff goes, I'm learning new stuff every day, and I'm learning new stuff about options every day. All right, so the other day, I don't know if anyone listens to the Broken Pie Chart, but it's a very good podcast. It's the Jay Pestruccelli podcast, and he's also with a guy named Derek Moore. I think it's Derek's podcast, and Jay's kind of like the co-host or whatever. But they've been doing it for 5 years, or Derek's been doing it for 5 years. It's great. It's on every Sunday. You could subscribe and get it sooner, but it comes out to the general public on Sundays, and I look forward to listening to it every Sunday. I probably should subscribe and start getting it Tuesdays, or I'm sorry, I think it comes out on Thursdays when they give it out. Anyway, they were kind of throwing a little bit of shade at people, guessing too much about their funds. They didn't really say anything too bad or whatever, but I just, and I'm not saying they're listening to any of these shows, but all I would say to them, if they are, is just make the accounting open source. Or heck, I'm going to try to ask them. I'm openly campaigning for an interview with someone from their company, but just like they make the trades open source, just release a. I mean, it's just debits and credits. They're just numbers on a spreadsheet. They are what they are. Just, I wish they would just release the exact accounting. I guess they do it pretty close. They release the positions every night, but why don't they just release the fill prices with as well? Um, I think that'd be great, because then I think if there is any confusion with maybe people out there that are doing it wrong, maybe I'm doing it wrong, but or maybe someone else is, but that would take any of the guesswork out of it. But yeah, I'm not trying to say I'm not. I hope you guys aren't watching this because you think I know something. I don't know anything about what they're going to pay. I don't have any special insight any more than you guys do. I've just been watching it every day, and I'm trying to reverse engineer this. And I'm hoping that if I do miss it this month, I'm going to figure out why I miss it and reverse engineer it better for next month. But to me, this is a learning process. So, but speaking of that, I'm not even going to make a guess on TRES because it'd be disingenuous. I'm going to have to watch what they. I'm going to watch what they pay tomorrow, and then I'm going to go back and look at stuff and try to tie it to something. And I'm going to do that next month, and hopefully I'll know to the penny what they have down. And I think I'm getting the system with a lot of you guys' help. I think we're getting the system down on how the regular Defiance funds pay, the QQQY. I think it's just extrinsic, but I don't know. Maybe we'll find out something different. But anyway, like I say, it's a learning process. It's not a knowing process. It's about learning, not knowing. It's nice to know, but I want to learn. You have to learn first before you can know, right? All right, so let's look at the charts. Okay, so this is the whole time I've been doing these. Can you believe I started more than 3 months ago? There was, that's Friday in November the 10th, November 10th. Wait. Yeah, November 10th is when I started. When I started doing profit boxes, I started talking on YouTube about a week before that. I had 1 or 2 videos out, but anyway, but yeah, look at this. Golly, I mean, my goodness, that's been a heck of a run. That's been a heck of a run. But if you look back here, let me go back a little further. I just wanted to compress it to get a longer view. If you look back here at October, which was a pretty bad month, it was down 10% at the lowest point from high to low. Look how jacked volatility was. It was consistently at its low point. It was 20. And it was that way from September, October, well, for 2 months. Okay, it was that way for 2 months. But then, and since then, and in the 4 months since then, November, December, January, and February, it hasn't been as high as there. That price has been a high. Whenever it hits there, it means it's, it turns around and goes the other way. It hit that price, what is that, 19.5? It hit that price back in mid-January, probably when it took that first little dip. And then we took another little dip there recently. And we'll take a couple of them, actually. This month's been kind of a little rough for some of these funds. But anyway, what my point is, vol is the opposite of jack. Vol is super low and getting super compressed. It does spike up, but then it just goes back down and keeps compressing. So they can only pay, they're dependent on the vol. The vol sets the option prices. They sell options. So they can control a bunch of stuff, and they do a pretty good job. But something I don't know that they really can control is the volatility. So I would say this month it's higher than last month. November, December was the most compressed, but I'd say it's about like last month. So I bet you the payments are pretty close to last month's. It looks pretty similar. If anything, it's maybe trending up a little. I don't know. It's about the same. All right. So let's see what else we have to talk about. All right. So, but here's the question, though. What kind of role do actual, net profits pay? They've been paying dividends out of gross profits. When you sell an option, there's time value, and the time value goes to zero. So whatever the time value is technically captured by you. Sometimes the option trade itself won't make money, but you'll have to buy the option back for more money than you sold it for. But these traders will still count the extrinsic, the time premium they earned off that trade, as a profit and pay it out. It looked like last month that's pretty much what they did, is they just paid out the extrinsic, or about 90% of the extrinsic. And Jay has also made comments to such an extent on social media that they intended to pay out the extrinsic. I think he said that one time, and then he said something about 90% one time. I don't know if he ever said 90% of the extrinsic. That may be putting words in his mouth. I've heard so many of his interviews, I get mixed up, but I think it's definitely a reasonable place to start. But I don't know, if they made me king for the day, I mean, I would probably have a more conservative system. I do get what the critics are saying when they're saying, it makes them nervous, or they say a lot worse than that. But I get that paying for future profits is, I mean, the way I would do it is the way I do it. In my trading, if I lose money, I don't pay myself. But I take that back. I mean, obviously, I still pay my expenses, so I guess I do in essence. I just don't take any money from my trading account in months that I lose money. And so if I was doing this for myself, a covered call program like these guys are doing, the way I would do it is I wouldn't get a dividend, in the months I lost money. But I guess when you're running a public ETF, you can't do that. So maybe like a different way to do it, a more conservative way to do it, a way that like respected the NAV a little bit more, might be just to maybe pay out a third of the extrinsic or half of the extrinsic capture in losing months, and then in a winning month just give out the extrinsic. If they make 50 cents a share and the extrinsic 75 cents a share, give out 75 cents. But if they lose 20 cents, give out 25 cents. Give out some kind of bare minimum. But of course I'm not king for the day, and I bet you they base this on future value calculations, and I also bet you they use Monte Carlo simulations, and I bet you they have the math to back up what they're doing. I'm just not getting a real scammy vibe from these guys. They're pretty straightforward and transparent, and I don't know. Maybe they have me fooled. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, but I'm not getting that scammy vibe, but maybe I'm wrong. All right. So, but let's look at the spreadsheets though. All right, well, let's look at this spreadsheet. So let's go back to last month when we were talking about profits. This time last month, these guys had made 46 cents on the night I made the dividend estimate. They lost that last day of the month. And then the next day after that, they lost big. I forgot about that. They lost $1.1 million in the last day of last month, right before they lost 4.4. That's just a bad 2 days. I mean, it's a really bad 2 days. And then they had 2 days in the month before that where they lost 4.3 and then 2.2 back to back. That's really bad. But even though last month wasn't stellar, it was quite a bit better than this month as far as earnings per share goes. As far as extrinsic, it's very close. Maybe a little bit less even this month, actually. But it's, very close on the extrinsic capture for QQQY. But yes, the earnings per share isn't there. So if they pay out the same dividend, if they were to pay out 85 cents, or I have down here, I have 80 cents. If they were to pay out one of those two numbers, yes, that would put a hurt on the old NAV. Like I say, I think they have the numbers to back it up. I think they know what a strategy like this will make over a 2-year period or a 5-year period. And so I think they use the Monte Carlo simulation to get you could set it for a really high degree of tolerance, where you can set it where 95% of the times it'll be right, or you could set it to different tolerances. And I bet they have a number that in all but just a few percent of outlier cases won't have any problem at all. And so I basically think that's paying the extrinsic is their number. So I'm going to just say 85 cents for these guys. I mean, well, first of all, it's exactly, okay, so what I did is I did 80 cents, and then I wanted to add in a few cents I want to add in about 3 cents for the interest income. Because I'm thinking they make 4 or 5 from some of these. Some of these don't pay that much, but some pay 4%, 5% from the bills and notes they have. Well, some are shorter. Some only pay a couple percent, but they're shorter term than that. So I'm not a bond expert, but in any event, I think they're making maybe 4%, and they have about 80% of their money at any given time, give or take, in there. 8 times 4, you can, so I'm thinking 2 to 3% extra. So I'm going to say 83 cents, but then I just added 2 cents to make it an even number. That makes it the same thing as last month. All right, so JEPY. All right, so let's go to JEPY right here. I probably have it open somewhere else, but I have too many tabs open. Let's just do it this way. Well, okay, we'll just do switch the tab, whatever. Okay, JEPY. So let's look at their earnings situation. Okay, last month at this time, they had made 43 cents. So, I mean, and this month, on guessing day, they're sitting at 11 cents. They're sitting 1/4 of where they were. Oh, and I also took an average here. I thought this was interesting. The average capture, I don't always look at the average capture that much, but remember back in November, if you guys were with me that long ago when I was looking at November and December, they were capturing like 25. Jay wants to capture 25 basis points a day, and he was doing it lots of days and averaging it. Or he might have averaged it like 17 on JEPY, but he was averaging 25 and then about more than 25 on IWMY on the capture. Well, on an average capture, they're down to 3 this month. And even if I do the past 2 months, if I go back to last month also, so I guess that's this whole year basically. I hadn't thought about that. But so if I do for the year, they're averaging 7. So it hasn't been a great time, or not, especially not as good of a time as November and December. But that could have been considered kind of a perfect storm for covered call investments, or it's definitely a perfect storm for bulls back in November and December. It's a face ripper. We're still in the middle of it too. We're still ripping sometimes, and especially if you have IWMY the past couple of days. IWMY has absolutely been on a tear. All right, anyway, I also took an average of the profits, but the profits are a lot lower. See, so I have 54 cents right here for an estimate, and that goes through tomorrow. I'm just assuming they capture tomorrow's. That's fine for the sake of the estimate. 54 cents. They paid 58 cents last time. Let's go 55 cents this time. How does that sound? So I'm thinking, if I said 54, but then they might not even capture tomorrow's. Tomorrow's might be a loser, so I decided just to add a penny for the interest income and make it an even 55. What the heck was that? Gosh darn it. I apologize. I knew that's the reason I needed to open a new tab. But anyway, okay, so we'll go 55 cents on these guys. I mean, how's that? Would that make you guys happy? I hope I'm not being too bullish. I mean, but anyway, we'll just see. That's my guess. I want to stick to it. All right, so now let's open IWMY. Okay, so these guys, now earnings was bad last month, down 47 cents. Hell, they lost 38 cents the night I made the prediction. This was the one I missed bad on because I was factoring in how much money they lost. And so what I did is I took what I otherwise would have guessed and I cut it in half, and I said 70 cents. They ended up paying $1.29 because it turned out it didn't matter. They're just paying the extrinsic, and there was a lot of volatility last month, especially on the downside, and these guys seem to catch just about all of it. Well, so I learned my lesson last month, and this month I'm not going to pay attention to the fact that they're down 10 cents because that's really nothing. Well, they were down 47 cents last month and they paid that big one. So I'm just going to look. Well, also, let's look at this real quick. So let's look at this average capture. They were capturing 14 basis points last month. Or no, they're averaging a loss Well, yeah, they're averaging a loss. Heck, I'm sorry. Yeah, they're averaging a loss. That's crazy. It didn't seem to matter last month, so let's just look at extrinsic. Extrinsic said $1.20. 90% of $1.20 is $1.08, right? All right, so $1.08, I'm going to add a few cents for interest, so I'm going to say $1.10. So it is less than last month by a little bit, by actually 19 cents, by a pretty good little amount. But I'm just going to go with the extrinsic numbers and see what they tell me. So yeah, $1.10 for IMWY, or what was that? IWMY. 55 cents for JEPY. QQQY is 85 cents. All right, guys, be sure to talk to your own planner. You know, decisions like this, where it's involving investments and lots of money, can have effects on you and your family for years if you make the right or if you make the wrong decision. So be sure to seek professional help. I'm not a professional. Like I said, I used to be, but that was so long ago. And even if I was, even when professionals have YouTube channels, they get on there and they tell you to go find help. It's because a YouTube channel isn't properly adequate, isn't good enough to qualify you. And that's a big part of it, is matching people up with the right kind of investments that meet their needs, but that also meets the intangibles and their risk tolerance and stuff. So use a planner. They're good guys. That's another thing I wanted to say. The extrinsic, they don't give us the accounting, so we don't know what the extrinsic is. We could know. They could give us the fills, and we know what time so we can know what time the trade took place. Then from there, we can know the extrinsic. When all we know is the strike price, and we know that they do it towards the end of the day. Well, even in the last half hour, there could be a good 10, 20 point difference, even if somebody does in the last 15 minutes, depending on when in the 15 minutes you did it. So depending on that could make a pretty big difference on some of these extrinsic numbers. So the extrinsic numbers, I think they're close, but that's all I'm going to say. Is I think they're close because they're based on taking an assumption. And then not to mention my sheet itself could have errors. So just keeping all those things in, usual caveats apply, and I'm going to say extra caveats apply because I've kind of been campaigning for a Defiance interview, so I'm trying to be on my best behavior in case they are listening. And I don't want to do anything disrespectful or to make them upset. I want to be able just to help people learn about these and make sure I'm giving accurate information. That's all it is. If there's any way they can help me in that, I would appreciate that. All right, guys. You guys have a wonderful evening, and I will talk to you tomorrow. All right. Good night.